Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We are super excited here to have you on Tap TV. And I have an incredible guest with us today, Shandel Poveda, who we've known for a couple months. And she has just been an incredible light and inspiration to me ever since I've had the pleasure of getting to know her. And so I'm really excited to introduce you to her today. So, Shandel, if you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself, anything you'd like our audience to know a little bit about you.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I am Shandel. Heather just said that. I have three kids. I had three kids in 2 years, twins and a baby. Um, I am young. I'm 23 years old. I live in Utah, and I am very, how would you say, boho or hippie? Very like live and let live, and extremely attracted to the law of attraction and the idea that it brings. And that's basically me.
That's awesome. Yeah, like you said, you're very young, but I feel like you're kind of like a wise old soul, if I can say that, in like a very
Yeah.
genuine, complimentary way. I just feel like you have a lot of depth to you, and you have an incredible life experience that I think is really giving you a lot of wisdom. And so, kind of like what brought you to the law of attraction? What made you kind of get started on your journey with it?
Hmm. I would have to say in 2013, after my last boy was born, I was overweight. I was extremely depressed. I was extremely suicidal, and I didn't want that in my life anymore. And so I started looking for help, looking for mentors, looking for people who had what I wanted. And that's when I kind of came around to the law of attraction. And at first it was really overwhelming because it's like, wow, like all of this is my responsibility. Like I've created all of this, and that I have been a victim my entire life, I guess you could say, blaming my circumstances on other people. And so when I started learning about the law of attraction, it really made sense. And even though it's like when you start implementing it, it's not immediate. I mean, there are immediate things that you'll notice, but the more that you go and the more that you keep implementing it, the more just naturally comes to you. And it's just amazing that like what you can create just by your thoughts and your beliefs and your ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like what you said about it kind of being overwhelming at the beginning. And so, anyone who's kind of starting on their journey, I think that we can have a lot of compassion for those in that place because we've been there too. When I really started getting into the law of attraction is when I was fighting cancer, and I was not ready to like accept that I had anything to do with this incredible misfortune. But over time, I realized that I actually had a lot of really negative energy in me, and that was kind of contributing to what was happening with me because our thoughts do affect our bodies on every single level. And once I did finally take responsibility for that, even though it was kind of painful, I found like incredible amount of freedom. Would you say that that's kind of true for yourself? Like once you got past that point, that
Yeah,
it, yeah.
there is a definite freedom that comes with knowing that you literally create your life, that you have the power to be a creator instead of just somebody who dwells here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, one thing I know that is really important to you is that what we think, we actually create. So, what does
Hmm.
that mean to you? How do your thoughts create your reality?
So, an interesting fact that I've learned, we think 35 to 48 thoughts per minute. And that's not just like consciously thinking about the external, that's also like thinking in the background, like subconsciously too. So that equals about 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts every single day. I mean, that's a lot that's like going on into your mind. And we can say like, how do you put it? When you think about stuff that you don't want, you actually create what you don't want. Your mind is this really powerful thing that, like, when you think about something for long enough, you actually start to manifest it. But when you tell your mind that you don't want something, I don't want to be like my parents, I don't want to have a bad day today, stuff that you don't want, it is still going to happen to you because you're not being specific about what you want. And so all your mind knows is you don't want this, but this is all that you're telling me. So it is naturally going to create it inside of your mind until you start to believe it, and then you'll start to behave like it. And then all of your actions and all of your reality just becomes everything that you don't want, just because you have never been specific about what you do want. And so that's my little tidbit.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I've heard it before, put like what you resist persists. And I never liked that, but it's actually really true. And an easy way to kind of break that down is like the white elephant analogy. So it's like, don't think about a white elephant.
Yeah, exactly.
Immediately you think about a white elephant because the brain has to rule out what that thing is so that you cannot think about it. So you have to think about it first. And so you're right. Yeah, what we don't want is going to keep showing up. And that just leads to a lot of frustration, depression. It just leads to a huge amount because you know that there's something better out there for you, but you keep running into the same roadblocks again and again. So do you have any ideas on how we can move past those roadblocks and how we can start to create instead what we do want?
My first thing is getting clear on what you do want. So say, one thing that I used to say is, I don't want to be fat or overweight or whatever, unhealthy, whatever you want to call it, because all of my family is overweight, and that's just like what I'm surrounded by. It's natural to me, and I could blame it on my genes, and I could blame it on all of this, and I could blame it on having kids. But the only thing that I ever thought was, I don't want to be fat. I don't want to be overweight. I don't want to be healthy. And come to find out, I was overweight after my third baby. I was tired. I was suicidal. I was depressed. And it just kind of hit me that I've only said that I don't want this. Why don't I get clear on what I do want? And getting clear on what you want is one of the most important things that you could ever do. Like crystal clear. Say you want to lose weight. Okay, how much weight do you want to lose? How much muscle do you want to gain? How much body fat do you want to be at? What do you want your body to look like? Whether it's realistic or not, it doesn't matter. It does not matter at all, because once you start to put it in your mind and to put it into action, it will eventually happen. So my advice would be just to first get clear on what you want.
I think
extremely crystal clear.
Very powerful. And I've heard it said that only 5% of people actually write your goals down. Do you write down the things that you want to manifest? Do you kind of like write it all out, or is it all in your mind?
I believe that it's important to put things on paper, not just like typing it onto the computer, because there's something that changes in your brain when you take it out to your hand and actually write it on the paper. There's a chemical in your brain. I'm not a pathologist, so I don't actually know what it's called. Right. But once you take ideas outside of your mind through your hand and put it on a piece of paper, like literally magical things start happening. And the more that you practice it, and the more that you keep doing it, and the more you actually let out of your system and get extremely crystal clear on what you want, the more and more you're going to attract about what you want. So I think you should definitely put it on paper, in a notebook, or write little sticky notes. Once you find out the core thing of what you want, I personally like vision boards or sticky notes. I have sticky notes on my mirror about things that I want, not just material things, but like feelings, emotionally, connection, friends, income, everything. And I have a vision board that I look at every day when I wake up, and then right before I go to bed. It's literally right there, right by my bedside. So putting it on paper and writing it down, that's personally what I do and what I suggest to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. So first get really clear on what you want, and then write it down. And it sounds like you review it frequently. I think that's probably a really important part. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes,
yeah, reviewing it frequently, especially since you said there's 70,000 thoughts a day. No wonder why we're so tired. But we really want to make sure we're steering the majority of those in the way that we want. And we can only do that through repetition. Otherwise, I think it's very easy to fall into our old patterns. So do you have an example from your life of you mentioned like your weight issue. Can you kind of walk us through how you went from pushing away what you like, saying I don't want that, and only to have it show up again and again, to then saying I do want this and actualizing into your life? Do you have an example for your own life of when you got what you want through this process?
Mine is definitely, um, I would honestly have to say a lot of body image. Um, in seventh grade, I was bulimic for an entire year, because I didn't want to be fat, because I was considered the thicker friend. Even though I was not thick, all of my friends were size like double zeros, and I was a size 3.5. So I was like the thicker friend. And so in my mind, I didn't really have a way to understand that it's not that I was fat, and I didn't have a good example in my life. I come from very extreme families, like all or nothing people.
Mm-hmm.
My dad is also a diabetic, and my mom is also overweight. So in my mind, the only thing that I could think of was to, you know, throw up every time I ate. And then I realized that that made me more shaky and sick. And even though it made me skinny, I just didn't feel good. And then in eighth grade, I was anorexic for the entire year. I actually lived off Red Bulls, like
Wow.
3 or 4 a day. And it was just bad, but I was so afraid of being fat, of being unhealthy and all that stuff. But I never sat down and said, this is what I want, this is how I'm going to get it, laid out a game plan for it. I didn't really know any better. I mean, I was really young, and I didn't really have that like connection that you can go and talk to your parents, and feel safe and comfortable. So then all of my high school, I struggled from being anorexic to binge eating, just because of my emotions and the things that happened in high school and all that kind of stuff. And then in 2010, I was raped and had twins out of it.
Right.
And I realized that I can't treat my body that way, but I didn't know how to treat my body good. All I knew is like crash dieting and working out like crazy and all that kind of stuff. So after they were born, that's all I said is I don't want to be fat. I don't want to have that mom bod, like
Right.
that was just like, I was obsessed with like social media and being socially accepted. So I worked out really hard, and I didn't really understand that nutrition was a part of it either. So I don't think I was overweight. I was just very unhealthy. I was always tired, extremely depressed, didn't deal with my PTSD, didn't deal with anything. And then I decided that it was time for another baby, and so I went ahead and had another one. And then after that, I remember that night it's just so crystal clear, like the night that it was like, I'm going to kill myself because I don't have what I want. All I have is what I don't want. And then that's when I started to realize like what I do want. And so since I've always struggled with like the self-image and loving myself and having a healthy relationship without being an extremist, that is where one of my best transformation took place. And ever since 2013, I've been on a journey of healing my eating disorder, and not just healing it like Alcoholics Anonymous, but actually going inside and asking myself, why do I feel this way inside? What is inside that is asking to be loved that I am ignoring? And some really painful stuff has come up, but realizing that I created that in the first place was overwhelming at first. But then as you work on it more, your life just starts to level out, and you start to understand the things around you, of why they're happening and why you have certain people in your life, and why you went through some experiences and why you're still going through some experiences. It's because you have not learned yet. There's something inside of you that is still asking why, or still unloved, or still needing that attention that you're not getting, because all you're feeding it is negativity or hatred or things that you don't want or criticizing yourself. So I think that's definitely like the transformation that has taken place was me healing from my eating disorder.
That's beautiful. I have goosebumps. And I just want to thank you for being so open and willing to share that with us. I hope that everyone can realize what a genuine place that you come from. And I appreciate your vulnerability with that for sure. So
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, you are a living embodiment that these principles are true, and they're true
Yeah.
across the board for anyone with any type of adversity. So, what advice would you have for someone looking to get started using the law of attraction to create the life they want?
My advice would first be it might be overwhelming at first, and that's okay. I feel like we all go through that.
Mm-hmm.
Realizing, stepping out of that victim, villain, hero triangle and stepping into the creation mode is a little bit, it's a little bit scary at first. But getting clear on what you want is definitely a big part. And not just like, oh, I want, $50,000 or whatever you want. You need to get clear on why you want it and what it's going to fulfill within you, and get to the point where you know exactly why, instead of just, oh, I don't know, it just sounds good. Um, Attach that emotional thing to it. Like, why do you want to be healthy? Why do you want, a bigger income? Why do you want better friends and all that kind of stuff? Another thing would be is to surround yourself with people who have what you want and with people who help you achieve a better version of yourself. Because, I mean, the statistic is that we become the top 5 people who we hang around, and that is so true. If you're overweight and you want to, slim down, get healthy, get toned, get lean, and feel better, look around you and see who you're hanging out with. And I bet that the top 5 people that you hang around with have everything that you don't want. So changing your circle is extremely important. And that doesn't mean that you have to hurt people and break up relationships and, completely just like, distance yourself. But it is extremely important to be around people who will lift you up, who will help you, especially on those dark moments when you have your conditioning that you grew up with, all the things that you don't want, and then over here you have what you do want, but you're unsure how to get there. There's always that gap there that's, you have to make it from here to here. When you're at like the darkest moment in your life, or at a down part where you're still choosing what you don't want and to think about what you don't want, you have those people who, they're not coming to save you. They're not going to come and save you, because then you're just asking for them to hero you and you're just being a victim. But they will be like, hey, like, what about this? This is what you told me. Just imagine how good you're going to feel. Like, what do you really want? And for them to be caring and loving without being enabling and just say, just pushing you away. And also, one thing that I started to do that really helped me is I would actually put alarms on my phone, about every hour, every half an hour, depending on, how much you can take, with a question. Like, when I would wake up, instead of it just saying alarm, on my phone and everything like that, I would want to wake up to my favorite song that's uplifting. That changes weekly because that's just what I do. I'm a different person every single week. But I wake up to a question. Like, my first one was, what can you create today? Or something like that.
Wow.
So waking up to one of my favorite songs and then seeing that on my phone, it automatically gets my mind going. And then all throughout the day, I have little questions or little comments like, hey, you're beautiful, or how do you feel, or what have you eaten today, stuff like that, especially like with struggling with my eating disorder and stuff. A lot of it was body image, a lot of it was self-talk, and a lot of it was food. um, and I also had like accountability partners, and I surrounded even like my social media. I started unfollowing people who were consistently negative, and started following more people who wrote uplifting quotes, had amazing pictures. And also, one of my things, especially if you're wanting to change your body, I used to follow like those supermodels who had like an unrealistic body,
Yeah.
that were like photoshopped and airbrushed and all that stuff. And in my mind, it was like I hated myself because I didn't look like that.
Mhm.
But in reality, they don't even look like that. So instead of following
Right.
unrealistic ideas of people and what we're supposed to look like, I started following like health journeys of people losing weight, of people gaining weight, of like, um, there's one that I love. It's called Honor My Curves. And it's more like thicker people loving themselves. And it's like, dang, if she can rock that, I can totally rock that. Like
Yeah.
seeing people in day to day clothes of things that are only supposed to be for size zeros, like it was really motivating to me, and it just kept me going instead of just like looking on there and being like, oh, I can never look like that. I have
Right.
stretch marks all over and I don't have big boobs, stuff like that. It's more like, dang, I can totally do this. I can totally do this. And so, social media, your surroundings, the things that you have around your walls, don't make them pointless. Like, don't have something pointless that doesn't do anything. Have a picture of what you want. Have, a picture of money if you want to create more money. Have what you want inside the picture frames, and little notes, little sticky notes. I love sticky notes. They're all over my house. And I think that's my advice for starting.
Yeah, super powerful. So what I kind of got away from that, and I'm sure this is going to really impact everyone watching, is to really surround yourself by those who have done what you want to do. And I think that's the power of finding a mentor. And that's exactly the journey I undertook. And it actually led me to you and to our incredible group of people that we surround ourselves with. And so if you don't have them currently in your life, you can find them. They're out there. I promise you. You can
They
find
are.
them. And then surround yourself with the positivity. I love the alarm tip. That's a really good one. So awesome, Shandel. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today with us. And do you have any one last thing you want to leave with us? A favorite quote or final thought?
Mm, my thought would be more like, once you get clear on what you want, it might kind of feel like your life is falling apart a little bit.
Yeah.
Like you're going to start to notice that people will naturally fall out of your life without you pushing them, just because you're growing and they're not on the same level. And you'll start to notice that people that you never thought even existed, people just like you, are going to start being naturally attracted to you. And naturally, you're going to have more connections. And like I'm going to honestly say, at least for my journey, it's been pretty painful, just because I've lost so many people, but at the same time, I have gained so many beautiful, amazing, like close friendships that I would have never ever tasted if I stayed, small and in victim mode and didn't start the law of attraction. So if you feel like your life is kind of falling apart, it's okay. Like that's just going to come naturally, just because you are going to let go of what is not serving you anymore, and you're going to start knowing what is serving you and what does work and how you can make it work. And it's just kind of a push pull process that you just need to allow it and to love it. Well, like welcome that in. It might be painful, but love yourself through it, and it will become more easy and easy and easy. So I think that's my last little thought.
I'm so grateful you said that. I think that's a really important part. We talk about all this positivity and change your life and all this stuff, and sometimes it sounds really great, but when you actually get to it, change is hard, but it's worth it. It's probably the hardest thing you're ever gonna do, but it's worth it. So
yeah.
if those watching have any questions for Shandel or any of us here, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section below, and we'll get back to you. I'm sure Shandel will be happy to answer any questions you might have. And also leave a comment below on what you're wanting to manifest. When you are willing to state it publicly like that, there is an incredible amount of power that comes to you. So I would encourage everyone watching to be brave. Leave a comment below on the life that you want to manifest. So thank you again, Shandel. We so appreciate having you here. And thanks for watching Tap TV. Thanks.